that we don't have time to examine it, to support it, refute it, but it's in the air. And if a prime example, without going any further, is Donald Trump. Donald Trump has done a whole campaign on Twitter. And it goes out so fast until it takes a long time before you can really get back to what he just said, to refute it, to support it, to substantiate it, or to show the evidence of whether it has any validity at all. And commentary at the opening of the Surah, the pen, chapter 68. When the holy prophet delivered his message, the disbelievers first called him a madman. The inkstand and the pen and all writings are called to bear witness to the fact that the utterance of the prophet are not those of a madman, hence the chapter is called the pen. The first section closes with a parable clearly foretelling that all the struggles of the Meccans against the holy prophet will be a complete failure, and that they will in the end regret what they did. The second section lays out stress on the knowledge of the future, which was revealed through the Holy Quran. The example of Jonah is quoted to show how trials and sufferings sometimes make the issue doubtful. And the chapter concludes with the statement that the Holy Quran will ultimately raise the whole of humanity to eminence. In this chapter, which is admittedly one of the earliest revelations, it should be noted that the message of the Holy Quran is declared to be meant for all nations. The other part that I like about that commentary is our struggles can be so great sometimes until we begin to doubt ourselves. And we really think that we're in a futile effort. And just like the prophet who had trials before him, we too are not to give up. And I always say my favorite prophet in the Quran is Job. If Job, with all that was heaped up on him, could hold steadfast. And then when you read the narration around the trials and tribulations of Job, you know that somebody is really picking on him. This is not just accidental misfortune, and we don't think of life, the end of life as accidental. This is not accidental. You got Shaitan that's going back and forth to Allah saying, let me hit him with this. Let me try this on him. Let me fill his body with disease. Let me take all his kids and all his wealth. And have people walk by him and say, you still praying? Why don't you just give up on that God? You see you're not getting any better. And those were the trials that Job faced and that are narrated in our Quran. And so we know the Quran is not just a piece of literature that we read in class and we put back on the shelf. The Quran is our criterion by which we live, and Job is there for a reason, and his tribulations are there for a reason. And I thank Allah that he gave us that support. And when Prophet Muhammad gave his last sermon, he told the believers that were present, take this message forward and give it to those who are not here. Perhaps they might even understand it better than you do. And so we're 1400 plus years out, and we're receiving the message that Prophet Muhammad sent forward by the believers to take it out to those who are not here. So we're in the 1400 years away from the Prophet, and we're receiving the message. And it really should resonate with us, and we should understand what it means. And we really do think that we have a better understanding, a better grasp when we look at the entire Muslim quote-unquote world. Evidently, the message got confused. And unfortunately, just to acknowledge, if you hadn't heard yet, there's a quote-unquote terrorist attack in Orlando, Florida. 20 dead, 40 shot last night. And the first thing CNN said was it a terrorist attack? Mind you, this is a gay club. Gay club is hit. But when they said terrorists, that's designated just for us. A mass murder, deranged gunman, that's for everybody else. But once you put terrorists on it, that's Muslim. And now one FBI agent on the scene was asked the question and he hesitated. And then he said, looks like it has the markings of, he didn't say Muslim terrorist. The question was asked to him, was it Muslim terrorist? And he said, it looks like it has the markings of terrorism. And they went all the media said, Muslim terrorists hit gay bar. And then they're saying Muslim terrorists hit gay bar as a call during Ramadan. Now, what Muslim, even if he had a beef with somebody, would use Ramadan to create violence when we're not even supposed to argue with each other? You know, we automatically walk away. I love Ramadan because when it gets heated, all I can say is, I'm fasting. And that stops everything. You know, if you go further than that, then you tell it on yourself. So these people have no Islam in them. It is not in their heart. It's not in their soul. And the indication is that their soul is not human. Even a gay bar, we believe in Allah's justice. It's not for us to go take someone's life because they don't agree with our lifestyles. Now, I know I was brought up today to talk about the future of the Muslim Journal. And sometimes we talk about everything else. Sometimes I ask my brothers in their M.A.L.I meeting, please put the Muslim Journal on the agenda. And he'll call me back and he said, I told them. And they told me they'd talk about that later. But the Muslim Journal has a future. And the future depends on all of us in this association. So let each of us ask ourselves that question. What is the future of the Muslim Journal? And just let it resonate. What is the future of the Muslim Journal? Think about it quietly and silently to yourself. What is the future of the Muslim Journal? I don't think it's a test of the soul, because things come and go all the time. But it is a test for our community and our memory and our existence. If we don't want our presence here just to be a footnote in someone else's writings, then we have to make extra effort to support and solidify and give longevity to our institutions. Newspapers are called, in the profession, they're called a rough draft of history. When they were writing the piece on PBS about Make It Plain, those writers for that piece on Malcolm spent hours at the Muslim Journal office combing through old Muhammad Speaks newspapers. If they couldn't find something, they would ask, where's this? Where's that? And I don't know why, but 1965 Muhammad Speaks are missing. And, well, we do know why, because in one of those Muhammad Speaks, there was the cartoon that had Malcolm's head severed, and it was bouncing. I can't find them. I think people out further from the journal might have them, but they were taken off the shelves. And I think a lot of they were taken off the shelves, because that's one I don't even want to try to explain. This past week, we were quickening by the news that our champ, the people's champ, the Muslim, Muhammad Ali, had passed. And the overwhelming news that gave it coverage, they did good. Yes, he was the greatest. Yes, he was a humanitarian. Yes, he was a people's champ. And they even acknowledged, yes, he was a Muslim. But how many reports did you hear that he was a part of our community? That he was inspired by Imam W.D. Muhammad to make the transition from the Nation of Islam teachings into Islam proper, and to follow the Prophet Muhammad and to follow the Quran. Where did you hear Imam Muhammad's name in relationship to Malcolm in the news reporting? I heard it once by a Caucasian man who was being asked by a reporter about how Malcolm made the transition from that fiery rhetoric that he had out of the Nation of Islam to become the gentle giant. And he made reference to the fact that Ali had put down white man as the devil a long time ago, and he had begun to follow the orthodox ways of Wallace Muhammad. Heard it one time, and you know, if you blink, and the reporter didn't follow up on that. Well, who is this Wallace Muhammad? How did he do this to a man like Malcolm, Muhammad Ali? How did he get Muhammad Ali to change his ways? The question line didn't follow up. Well, who was it that impacted this man's life so much that he would go in a completely different direction that we knew of him? It was no follow-up. So, going forward, I just want to remind you all that with the resources we have, we do the best we can. We print over 2,200 some newspapers since I've been editing. We print 52 papers a year, every week, and we cover something different, or we do a follow-up to what has been reported before in each. Now, if we haven't covered somebody's event, we apologize for not getting there. But at the same time, please do not hesitate to let us know. Imam Salim Mukman went to Africa, and he sent us back volumes of photos and shared their experience with us through the Muslim Journal. Now, if you go abroad and do something and you don't contact us, we don't have the money to send somebody with you. We don't have traveling staff that can just hop a plane at a moment's notice and pay for hotel rooms and travel and meals and their salary and get those stories back in the Muslim Journal. We have to rely on you. If you're doing something in your masjid that you think would not only highlight what you're doing but uplift the spirit of the entire community, then please find someone to help us get that information to the Muslim Journal. It is not just a local story. The other side of the country can say, this is what Muslims are doing in California when you show that paper in Florida. This is what Muslims are doing all over the United States. This is how they're living. This is how they pattern their lives. This is how they're contributing to this society, this American U.S. society. And we do try to cover our veterans. Brother Mateen is here. And the other veterans. Because we know that they, like all other veterans, signed up to be willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. And we have brothers who are 30-year veterans, 30-plus-year veterans. We got an obituary from a brother out of Connecticut, a senior pioneer. And it wasn't until we read his obituary that we realized this brother has a Purple Heart. We've had Tuskegee Airmen in our community that recently passed. I got a piece the other day that there are other organizations. When 9/11 hit, Brother Rockman and Master Bilal in Cleveland was the chief of the fire department. When those firemen got killed in New York, his statement to us was, we lost 300 men today. He didn't separate the Muslims from the other men. He was a fire chief for all firemen. And very few people know that the fire chief in Oklahoma City, when the Mirror Federal Building was bombed, was a Muslim. So if we don't tell these things, nobody else is going to seek it out to give us a good report. Usually the reports are slanted against us, just like this one this morning. They haven't released the name. We don't know if he has an Arabic name or what. He could just be mad. His name came out, Omar? I hadn't heard it before I left the hotel. So that's where they're going with it. But of course, it's going to be all of us who bear the burden. I just want to go through some of the slides to just demonstrate some of the things that we have covered. Not all of them. Like we say, we have over 2,200, 2,000 front page. And I'm just starting with me. I'm not the all in all for the Muslim Journal. When we say we had two other Muslim sisters who were editors of the Muslim Journal, I always congratulate Sister Anna Kareem When the transition in our community was being made,